You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
This week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast, the official podcast of minor league baseball. We've got a packed group, a packed house, a packed show for you today. I am joined by my two cohorts, Benjamin Hill and Samuel P. Dykstra. Gentlemen, Sam's already shaking his head at me in annoyance. Hello. Hi, Sam.
I'm glad this is an audio podcast in many ways, so people can't be seeing what I'm doing.
Sam made a vulgar gesture toward me.
Yes, fill in the blanks for those adults of you at home. And if you're a kid at home listening, welcome to the show. Don't worry about it. But yes, my middle name is Collins. As always, it's still Collins. It has always been Collins since the day I was born in 1990. But it is.
Look at me. I was born in the 90s, man.
Yes, that's how I get back at you guys. I'm just going to remind you that I am a 90s child. And I'm still in my low 30s.
I do love, though, of all of the inside jokes we've ever come up with on this podcast, this is the one that people have globbed onto the most.
I hate it so much.
I
love this podcast and the community around it and everybody who's joined us through minor league baseball. But I hate nothing more than this part of it.
Well, you can thank our good buddy Josh Jackson as we welcome in Ben as well. Ben, what's going on? How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm a child of the 70s, so it does hurt to hear Samuel P. over there talk about being a child of the 90s. I mean, I'm a child of the late 70s, but still, it's disconcerting to realize we have a whole decade between us, the entirety of the Reagan administration.
Which is
that's how I'm doing.
I'm
doing all right.
Yeah, I get to be the pivot maybe in the middle in 85. A geriatric millennial, as we were deemed this week, according to, I don't know, somebody on Twitter. Well, hey, welcome into this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. We got so much coming up for you today. We will check in with the one of the heads of the latest minor league thing to go viral, which is the beer bats in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, at the home of the Myrtle Beach Pelicans, and how it is that the Pelicans got to go viral with a thing that other minor league teams have been doing for years, and Myrtle Beach gets to cash in on it this week. We'll check in with Ryan Moore, the GM and vice president of team president, I should say, of the Myrtle Beach Pelicans, coming up here in a little bit. But we got a lot more to get to on the show today. Ben is with us right out of the gate as we dive into some things newsworthy and noteworthy across the minor leagues. And there's some very good stuff to touch on. We're going to talk about a Hudson Valley. I don't even want to say mishap, because I think they turned a little bit of chicken droppings into chicken salad the other day. We'll talk about that, but we're going to start talking about Beloit. We haven't really checked in with the Beloit Snappers a ton in recent weeks, because it's a situation where so much is changing in Beloit for the better. There's a brand new ballpark that will be open coming up next season for the Beloit Snappers, who we anticipate will also have a new identity as well. Beloit is in this transitional time where that's a franchise that, if not for that new ballpark, may not have continued to host minor league baseball in Beloit, Wisconsin. And instead, they are embarking on a new era very soon. But this is an interesting year for Beloit, because they are saying goodbye to an old era, well, kind of on the pause button, I guess. Beloit playing in its old ballpark right now, still called the Snappers. We're anticipating a rebrand at some point, probably over this offseason. But they did a very cool thing coming into this year, which was they were going to be selling naming rights on a game-to-game basis. And we kind of mentioned this, I think, a few months ago, but Ben's got a story coming to the sites about how that's been going in Beloit. Ben, give us the update of what this season has been like so far for the Snappers and their community.
Yes, Tyler, like you mentioned, they're moving to Snappers are moving to a new ballpark later this season. The exact date has not been set up, but they began 2021 at their home for 40 seasons, Pullman Field, a rustic facility, we will call it. And lot of memories there, but obviously they're excited to go to a new park. But in the interim, in these couple months, they began their home season on May 11th, and beginning May 12th and through the entirety of the rest of their stay at Pullman Field before they move to the new ballpark, they are auctioning off naming rights to the ballpark on a 1 day per game basis. It's a minimum bid of $500. You can quote unquote buy it now for $1,000. And proceeds, it's a partnership with the local Boys and Girls Club. So there's a good charitable angle. And totally unprecedented, I think, in the world of sports to offer a 1 day naming rights to fans and basically anyone who wants to do it. Yes, there's some fine print in terms of exactly what you can name the ballpark. I mean, use your imagination. You can't just pay $500 and get some profane stuff out there. But beyond that, there's a lot of leeway for the name of the ballpark from night to night. And as part of the story, I spoke with a man named Bob Graff, who last week, he and his wife and his brothers, he lives in North Carolina. His brothers are in Florida and Kentucky. They'd never been to Beloit, any of them. But Bob Graff, a big baseball fan, saw this deal that the Snappers had, said, I want to go see a game in a ballpark named after me. And he brought him and a group of 8 friends and family to Beloit. They all went to Beloit for the first time so they could witness a game at the ballpark named after him, Bob Graff. And so you get to spend a day in a ballpark named after you. There's temporary signage, big tarps out front and on center field that say the name of the ballpark that day. And you get to throw out a first pitch. However, first pitches work in this COVID reality, but some sort of first pitch. Participate in between inning contests, do an interview on the radio, just have a day all about you at the ballpark as it carries your name or whatever name you decided you wanted the ballpark to be named. So some, local businesses or not even local businesses are, buying the ballpark naming rights for a day to promote a business. Some are doing it in honor of a deceased family or friend. Some are naming it after themselves. So there's a lot of angles here and one we might return to, but a total unique thing to name the ballpark after yourself for a minimum bid of $500 in Beloit this season.
Yeah, and that's a good tease for a podcast segment that you guys might be hearing here in the future about Beloit and the naming rights. Ben, I want to pivot to this story you have on MILB.com right now. Thankfully, we haven't had any technical mishaps on this podcast yet, knock on wood. But the Hudson Valley Renegades had their own technical difficulties over the weekend when their video board just went down. Like the computer connected to it, they weren't able to use the graphics that they normally use and become a staple of minor league games across the country. But they got to improvise. They did find a way around this. What can you tell us about their video board meltdown up there in Hudson Valley?
Yeah, this happened over the weekend at Dutchess Stadium, home of the Hudson Valley Renegades, who are now High A, affiliate of the Yankees. I went into Monday being like, I'm going to write this story on Beloit, but over the weekend, you want to make sure you know all the crazy stuff that happened. And one of the things that happened was Myrtle Beach and the beer bats, and that segment is coming up. And the other thing I was like, I got to cover in some way, shape, or form was these technical difficulties in Hudson Valley, where basically the computer that serves as the hub for all the video board graphics and video did not work. So the team was unable to do anything on their video board that they would normally do. But the video board itself still worked, and they realized they could just set up a live feed from a suite and broadcast that to the video board. So over the course of Saturday and Sunday's games, the Hudson Valley Renegades just set up a whiteboard, updated the score and strikes and balls and everything else on a whiteboard, did all sorts of like absurdist sight gags, dance cams, people coming in and out of the suite for various reasons, special guests, planned and unplanned. Just one of those quintessential only in minor league baseball moments where, you wake up on Saturday and you're just like, oh no, our video board's on the fritz. We can't use it. This is a disaster. And then being like, okay, here's what we can do. And we can embrace it. We can have fun. And I think they did have a lot of fun with it. And I would encourage everyone to check out that story on MILB.com because talking about it doesn't do it complete justice. You need to see some of these videos and pictures of what the game day presentation was like in Hudson Valley over the weekend. And it was great talking to the staff and getting a sense of what they did because everyone just said after they got over the initial sense of doom were just like, this is actually really fun. And I think by the time the weekend ended, they wouldn't have traded the experience for anything. Just getting to improvise like that over the course of a weekend, be creative, embrace the absurd, have fun, and do the entire game on a whiteboard, broadcast live to the video board. Absurd stuff.
Absurd stuff is one of my favorite things about minor league baseball. That's like it's like an old time, like late night TV thing. That Hudson Valley story, which I love. Just let's throw stuff out there and see what's going to work. And a very fun piece of the early craziness in minor league baseball, just over a couple of weeks into the season. And we've got another one of those things, which is in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. The beer bats of the Myrtle Beach Pelicans went mega viral this week. This caught me very off guard because other teams have been selling these beer bats for the last few years. And I think in the minor league world, we just kind of think like, well, yeah, that's a thing that exists. And you sort of forget about, like, in the outer sports world, people aren't necessarily aware of all of these things. And this blew up. There was a tweet about the Myrtle Beach Pelicans baseball bat beer containers, I guess, the vessels by which you can drink at a Pelicans game, that just went insane on the internet this way. Did this surprise you guys the way that it kind of surprised me that this went so big?
Well, it surprised me, but in a way it didn't surprise me, because writing about minor league baseball for so many years, and sometimes in a little bit of I try not to be a jerk about it, but sometimes a little territorial. There's been so many times I've covered something and it hasn't gotten that much play, and then through some other circumstance, what I've already written about blows up, and I'm like, you just should have read me. Why don't you make me go viral at once instead of you hacks at whatever website stealing my work, or if not stealing it, just finding it elsewhere, not realizing it. So much of it flows from the source, me. Just kidding. But
kind of, but not really.
Kind of, not really, but no, really. It is totally random. The internet is random, and you never know what's going to blow up when, and it's just like a variety of crazy factors that made this one blow up. And I think it's a really fun story.
Yeah, I think it is such a reminder of how much, like, minor league baseball is expansive. It goes coast to coast, obviously. We've talked so much about how there's different pockets and everybody gets to specialize in a thing, but there are certain things that are just like minor league baseball across the board, and it is still a small community in many ways. And sometimes things eke out. Like we talked about beer bats. What was it? 2018 was like the first one we've ever really heard of this before. And I first heard about it in Hartford. I think a lot of people first heard about it in Hartford. But then all of a sudden, when the bigger community, like bigger baseball community, and then bigger sports community, and then bigger online community catches on with it, it is kind of fun just to see it catch on in that way, and see minor league baseball celebrated for being something that to us feels normal. And it is a nice reminder, I think, to the general public that stuff like this happens literally all the time. Like this, a beer bat is special in this way, but it's not special to a minor league park. You're always going to find something like it, even if it's not just a big tube of beer. There's going to be something special at that ballpark that will open up eyes everywhere else. So hopefully this is a nice reminder for folks who aren't as dialed into the minor league universe as we are, and maybe listeners of this podcast. But this interview we're about to have with Ryan Moore, I think, was a really fun one for that reason.
He is the team president and general manager of the Myrtle Beach Pelicans, Ryan Moore, who joins the show to talk about his team's viral fame from the last few days. Coming up next.
Here at the Show Before the Show podcast, we are delighted to have Myrtle Beach Pelicans president and general manager Ryan Moore with us, who is enjoying a flirt with viral fame, and it's been a crazy beer bat saga going on in Myrtle Beach this week. Ryan, thanks for joining the podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And where to begin? You have gone massively viral due to the fact that you sell beer bats at the ballpark, which is what they sound like. It's a glass of beer shaped like a baseball bat. How long have you been selling beer bats at the ballpark?
We introduced them about 3 years ago, 2019 season. So yeah, this whole viral thing has kind of caught us by surprise. We've had them for years.
Right, and I've seen them around the minors for years. They haven't gone viral, but it looks like, was this on over the weekend on Friday night?
Saturday.
there was a tweet that said, Saturday night, there was a tweet by a Twitter user named Brian Kerp who said, it's Thirsty Thursday, and also they have beer bats, and these are great. And then Talking Baseball, John Boy Media jumped on and said, hey, it's Thirsty Thursday, and they sell them in these bats, which wasn't entirely correct. You could get the discounted Thirsty Thursday beer, or if you wanted, spend more money for a beer bat. But for whatever reason, that tweet went absolutely viral. Last time we checked, it had like 40,000 likes. So kind of take me through this process where you're just having another night at the ballpark, and then all of a sudden something you've offered for years goes totally wildly viral.
Yeah, it was wild. The tweet did go out, and it referenced two separate promotions that we have going on. We do the dollar beers as part of Sippin' Saturdays now. We've always had it as Thirsty Thursday, but we also offer the beer bats for $15. And through the power of social media and that game of telephone, the message got a little misconstrued throughout the process, and people thought we were selling the bats filled with beer for $1. That probably helped or hurt, whatever way you want to look at it, getting that message out. And like you said, just a handful of outlets put it out. It was a beautiful day here on Saturday. We typically don't play day games, so having a blue background is really rare coming from our ballpark. So it just looked like a great picture, perfect day. We saw that tweet. It went semi-viral, I'd say, on Saturday, and we had a handful of people reach out to us and say, hey, how can I buy it? We said, well, you can only buy it in park. It's not a licensed item that we can offer for retail sales. And then that led into what happened on Sunday and kind of just everything exploding.
Yeah, and let's get into what happened on Sunday. Like, how quickly, when you guys realized that momentum was picking up and it was starting to go far and wide because of all the reasons you mentioned. I love that you mentioned it. It was a picture perfect day for you guys on Saturday. But at what point did you guys go into planning mode of like, okay, this is the thing that's been around for a long time, but how can we spin this to get even more promotion for ourselves beyond just the tweet?
I was sitting in my office, and I think a lot of you guys know Hunter. He's our director of fan engagement, runs our social, and then also our in-park entertainment on the ground floor level. We're sitting in here just kind of going back and forth, and popped in my head. I said, what we could do is people can just Venmo me $25. I'll go grab a beer, drink it for them, and send my game used bat. And just thought it'd be a little fun, social play. We're like, maybe it'll take off, maybe it won't. And by take off, we're like, if we can sell 10 bats, that would be awesome. And we quickly realized we underestimated what was coming our way.
So let's just throw that out there if you're okay with this, because this is a tweet you guys have sent out. Your Venmo is Ryan Moore 843. Ryan Moore 843. Right.
And so it was literally less than an hour before the game was going to start. It was about 15 minutes before our gates were going to be opening up, and I said, let's do it. We have a beach area down in the ballpark. It wasn't rented for that night, so I said, go ahead, let's get like a little set up down there. We'll put a chair down, get some of our inflatable stuff, make it look pretty, and I'll go down there and I'll drink a beer to start the game and see if anybody wants to buy it.
And when you said you were planning on 10, how many have you guys gotten? Like, how quickly were they coming in?
Literally, as we're talking, more and more are coming through. We're looking probably approaching close to 600 right now. It's going to be a long season for me.
I was going to say, so is the plan still that you are going to consume all of these, and how long is that going to take?
I have to. If I didn't, that would break licensing rules. So I have to drink the beer out of it, and then it's just a game used beer bat that I'm selling. I don't, 600 beers, like that's 2 a day, every day for a year almost.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to call in some reinforcements. So if you guys want to come down and take in a game, and we can have some nice ice cold Bud Lights and send those out. I'm definitely finding out that I'm in over my head. So as long as we buy the bats, we drink the beer, and we send them out. Everything's good.
Ryan, for the designation of it as game used is kind of fun too. Are you signing these? Are you including any sort of personalized message to the people who buy them from you?
Yeah, I'm only signing them upon request. We have had a handful of requests. I'd hate to tarnish someone's bat with my terrible name and signature on it if they don't want it. But yeah, the next iteration, and we haven't talked about this with anybody yet, but so you guys first to hear breaking news, is we're going to put like a little message into the bottle that, you know, thanks them for their service, if you will, and, you know, encouraging them to take a picture and, you know, tag us and do everything that you would imagine. But then we'll also follow up with everybody, and once we get through the 600 beers being drank and have them all out in market, we're going to set up a Zoom call for everybody, and we'll do a virtual beer bat cheers for the Beer Bat Nation.
The moment in which this comes about is really cool because obviously it's been a very difficult year plus for everybody, and especially for minor league baseball franchises. And to be in a circumstance where you now are, you know, 600 bats times $25 is $15,000. Like that's no slouch of an effort. What does it mean to have something that you see the community, not just the community of Pelicans fans in Myrtle Beach, but, you know, nationally, this thing going so big, you know, it turns into something that actually substantially could have an impact in a way in which you did not foresee. That's got to feel pretty cool right now.
Yeah, it was like perfect. Like you referenced, you know, it's been a tough year, and it's been a grind for a lot of people on our staff. And, you know, every time you turned around, you know, something bad happened. So we got getting into the homestand, obviously, you know, was a labor of love, and, you know, getting the first 6 games under our belt, and, you know, going through the new protocols and the new system that we're under, you know, it was stressful for our staff. We had a really, really good opening week, but, you know, I could see kind of the drain that 6 games and the months leading up to it have had. But having this kind of viral sensation cap the homestand just kind of injected that energy, and like people were just having fun. Like it was like, holy cow, Dan Patrick just picked it up. Oh, I heard you on MLB Network Radio. And, you know, people from all across the country, you know, you reference, you know, nationwide sales. We've had international sales, and, you know, I'm sitting on the beach in the 8th inning, you know, 6 beer bats deep, and we're getting messages from people in Australia who'll be like, will you send us a bat in Australia? And, you know, I'm already 6 deep, so I'm like, yeah, we'll send them anywhere in the world. You send me $25 and I'll send you a bat. You know, I have zero idea how much it costs to ship a bat to Australia. It could cost more than $25 for all I know, but hey, it's all about the fun.
And Ryan, you mentioned, you know, nationally viral, globally viral. I saw that Budweiser, like literally just Budweiser at Budweiser on Twitter, was tweeting about you and saying, you know, all ballparks should have a beer bat. Locally, there's now a billboard I saw you guys tweet that says Myrtle Beach Pelicans, home of the beer bat. For all the teams that have been selling beer bats for years now to just kind of moderate success, no big deal, have you been hearing from you know, friends and coworkers in the industry like, give me a break, man, we've been selling these too, why do you have all the luck? What's it been like, that sort of reaction to this just absolute craziness?
It's kind of all in good fun and jest. It's like everyone knows that, you know, it was just a stroke of luck, completely organic, nothing that we did on our end to try to, you know, trump up the fact that we have beer bats. You know, shame on us, we should have done that a while ago. But yeah, we kind of just fell into the moment and, you know, leaning into it, having fun. Even like the billboard company, you know, we didn't call them. They called us yesterday and said, hey, we've got some open spots on our digital channels. Can you send us some images? We think this is a ton of fun. So, you know, having good partners that, you know, buy into what we're doing here at the ballpark and then spread it across town. You know, even Sunday in park, you know, we may have sold, you know, 10 beer bats on a good night. So we still had 50 in stock, and we sold out all 50 by the 5th inning. So you're starting to see the energy towards them on in-park sales as well. So like you said, Tyler, you know, we'll continue to lean into it and, you know, try to make it a difference maker for us.
And I guess to kind of wrap this, is there any takeaway from this? Like, is there any way you can reproduce this, not necessarily with a beer bat, but with something else? Like, or is this just, getting something right in the right place, being Myrtle Beach, being, like you said, in a sunny place, being able to get a good viral picture out of there? Like, is there any potential roadmap now to replicating this with a second item?
No. It's completely a stroke of luck. There was just a ton of factors that kind of came together, and why it happened and how it happened is something like, I think if we tried to replicate, it would come off as kind of bush league. I don't know. It's got to be organic. You can't force the hand. That being said, will we be offering different designs on additional beer bats in the future? Probably. Will we try to make it a collector series and slow release and have our different logos on some bats moving forward? Probably. We talked with Sam at the Beer Bat Company, who is the one who produces these, and he was saying even his sales, he sold out of all of his direct to consumer online yesterday, or Sunday night into yesterday. He's getting a ton of calls from teams across minor league baseball, also international teams, Australia, California have been reaching out to him. So it's been awesome to see that he's also having a lot of good success out of it. He's been a great guy. We've known him for years now. So really happy to see his success as well.
Ryan, I just want you to mail me one along with Bubba's Kickin' Chicken and Fries from Dagwoods, please.
I can do that.
Okay.
My Venmo is Ryan-Moore-843.
And that'll be $32 for you.
The perfect callback.
I
I have to cover my meal as well.
Right.
Yeah. I'll get you the Dagwoods. That's on me.
Yes.
We had a crew of the Bumsteads out here on opening night. Their bartenders put together a little party bus. I shouldn't say little party bus. They had 100+ people. So as you can imagine, it was a really fun crowd to get the season kicked off with.
I moved away from Myrtle Beach 10 years ago, and I still think about Bubba's Kickin' Chicken sandwich probably once a month, if not more. So I get it.
You got to come back and visit, man.
I do. I very much do.
Well, Ryan-Moore-843, thank you very much for joining us on the Show Before the Show podcast. Best of luck with your increased Budweiser consumption this year. And, ridiculous and random or not, congrats on the success to start the season. I know everyone's looking for victories right now, and this is a fun story to cover. So thanks for being here.
Thanks. And, definitely want to give a hat tip to our social team. I mentioned Hunter earlier, but, I think you guys probably agree. He's one of the best in all of minor leagues. And, without having, people that understand the internet and understand social, none of this would have taken off the way it did. So complete total team effort. But, our social team is definitely the ones to wear the crown on this one.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for being here, and shout out to Hunter and everyone who did great work on that. And have fun drinking.
Yeah, come on down and help me out, please.
It's a new format of this Show Before the Show podcast where we can just spring 3 strikes on you at any point. We had our opening segment with Ben, then we talked with Ryan Moore, then bam, 3 strikes coming at you in segment number 3. As we, big thanks to Ryan Moore, who is fantastic. Ryan-Moore-843 on Venmo. You could probably just send him money. Like, I don't even know if you need a request. You just want to give Ryan money. I'm sure he'd take it. I would take it.
Well, there was this. You probably heard my hesitation in the last segment about like giving out his Venmo because right. I don't know if you heard this story, but like people have found Joe Biden's Venmo.
Yeah. That was who was that? Vox. So, there was a publication that like very easily evidently tracked down the Venmo of the president of the United States. They were like, that's probably not a real good thing for Venmo security.
Yeah. I mean, I get like Venmo, you can request $5,000 from whoever you want. That doesn't mean they're going to send it to you.
Right.
But the fact that it's that much easy of a click to send somebody $5,000 is a little worrisome.
Yeah. And also just like
game.
Everything is public on there. So I guess you could just go find Ryan and see the laundry list of people requesting beer bats. I mean, that'd be kind of cool. But I do fear for Ryan's liver as he needs to consume at least 600 beer bats from now until, whenever. And I know that he could deputize members of the front office in order to help him out with that. But I believe they did say in the tweet that Ryan would consume the beer and send you his game used beer bat. So like, I'm not signing up for a Dan Bailey game used beer bat, who's the head of the pro shop in Myrtle Beach. Come on, Dan. I'm not doing that. No, I would love a Dan Bailey customized beer bat. And please, Ryan, if you're listening, you and Dan can both drink a beer bat and send it to me. I'll Venmo you.
I was gonna say you sounds like you're gonna be the person who's gonna request multiple signatures on this, not just Ryan's.
I just very much I miss Dan Bailey. He's a very good man. And so with that, we'll pivot into some baseball conversation here for 3 strikes on this week's episode of the show before the show. I'm taking care of my dad's dog. I don't know if you can see her, Sam. She's throwing her head under my hand in order to get pets. There she is.
There we go.
It's very good on an audio only format when you draw attention to visual things that people can't see. But let's dive in. There have been some very interesting and weird trends across the minor leagues through the first couple of weeks of this MILB season. And one of them is kind of a throwback sort of thing. And Sam's got a story that is up now about the rise of stolen bases across the minor leagues. This is one thing that speaks to a larger conversation, I think, not only in baseball, but in sports, which is that everything is cyclical in sports. Yes, we are currently in this era of 3 true outcomes and nobody wants to, risk anything on the bases. And it's just home runs and strikeouts and walks and all of that. Everything in sports is on a pendulum and it all swings back at some point or another. Stolen bases have largely fallen out of favor across baseball in recent years. Maybe we are starting to see a trend where because of that, teams are putting a little bit more emphasis on being able to run. Sam, what have you found in putting this story together?
Well, I think, your idea about it being a pendulum is obviously true, but also this is like MLB has kind of pushed the pendulum in a certain direction here, because the 2 levels I'm going to focus in on where there's been the biggest jump in stolen bases are high A and low A. And for those of you who remember at the beginning of the year, or anybody who's been to a high A or low A game, to start 2021 knows that there have been rule changes at those 2 levels. At high A, pitchers now have to fully step off the rubber before they're allowed to attempt a pickoff. So we get no more of this, motion like Andy Pettit, who was a master of the pickoff, could pick up his leg, make you think he's delivering home, but he's actually stepping towards first. You get picked off. So because of that, guys are able to get a little bit more comfortable with their leads because they know the second you step off the rubber or the second you start moving towards home, you're definitely throwing it either direction. It's a little bit more predictable. That means stolen bases should be a little bit easier. At low A, they've limited pickoffs to only 2. You can only throw over twice. If you attempt a third, if it's successful, you're fine. But if it's not, you get charged with a balk and the guy gets to go advance the base anyways. So again, once you throw over twice, the guy at first base basically has free reign to get as long a lead as he wants. And that's also led to an uptick in stolen bases. So let's dig into the numbers here real quick. At high A, it's funny how consistent the caught stealing rate has been at high A through the last 3 minor league seasons we have, 2019, 2018, 2017. It's always been around 32.8%. This year it's at 20.9. There could be some other, things at play here. There could be rustiness from catchers and pitchers working against base runners. You can throw in the lab, as they call it. You can, pitch your bullpens in a pandemic year, but you're not going to know what it's going to like to throw with runners on base until you really do that. That could be in play here. But the fact that we know these new rules are in place, that is a big factor here for sure. And we're seeing more stolen bases attempted. It's not just that they're being successful, it's that they're being more attempted. So in 2019, there were roughly 1.2 stolen base attempts per game by each team. Now that's up to 1.8. That's a jump of 50%. So we're seeing roughly 50% more stolen bases attempted by each team every game. So that's kind of crazy. Low A, again, with the pickoff limits, we're seeing similar jumps. The caught stealing rate was around 32% the last 3 years. Now it's at 17.3. So it's almost cut in half at that level. And stolen base attempts jumped from 1.2 in 2019 to 1.7 which is kind of crazy. We're not seeing similar jumps at AA, which is kind of the control of this. One of the reasons why each level has different rules is to isolate what works and what doesn't. So if we're looking for more stolen bases, these new rules at high A and low A definitely seem to be working. We're seeing a slight uptick at AAA. Stolen base attempts have gone from 0.9 to 1.07. Part of that could be because there are larger bases there now, and they're also stickier. No more of this potentially sliding off the base and causing it out that way. That could allow teams to be a little bit more aggressive, but it's much more modest than we're seeing at the two lower levels. So again, this is through 2 weeks. It's a fairly small sample, but the fact that we knew these rule changes were coming in with these goals of increasing stolen bases in mind, and they're already producing this level of results, is promising for what Major League Baseball was trying to do with these rules. And we'll see if these trends continue over a larger sample, and if it means further rule changes could come to other levels, and we eventually get to, like you were saying, Tyler, with that pendulum, get back to a time in which we're seeing guys steal 50, 60, 70 bases a year a lot more normally than we are today.
Strike two this week is about a guy who we had never seen at the AAA level before and who is just absolutely decimating the AAA level. And that is the Seattle Mariners number 6 prospect, Taylor Trammell, who is 14 for his first 22 with 4 home runs in AAA since being optioned there by the Mariners last week. Taylor Trammell started the season at the major league level, just couldn't find his footing offensively. The Mariners sent him down with kind of an emphasis on figuring out how he can regularly handle off-speed stuff. He has been absurd. Now, all of those games have taken place at Salt Lake with the new format, 6-game series. Taylor Trammell told me last night he loves that. He loves being able to stay in a place for longer, rather than just 3-4 days packing up, hitting the road to go somewhere else. But this has been a very impressive week for a guy who really could have taken this opportunity and, kind of felt bad for himself starting the season in the majors and then being back down in the minors. Taylor Trammell has really taken it and run with it.
Yeah, and this has been really fun just because Taylor Trammell is such an infectious personality. He's great for the game. He's great to watch when he is hitting on all cylinders. And like you said, Tyler, he wasn't really doing that earlier on. He was striking out a lot, 43.2% of his plate appearances at the major league level. That's down to 12% now. So he is making more contact, again, in smaller samples, but he hit 4 homers in the majors, over 95 plate appearances. He's got 4 homers now and 25 plate appearances. Salt Lake is a great place to play. It's a great place to hit. So I'll be interested to see what happens when he gets away from that park in the days ahead. But Tyler, you've actually talked to him multiple times in the last week. What stood out to you other than what you were saying about the 6-game series? Like, what's allowed him to turn things around and really stay upbeat when, like you said, it was clear he was getting squeezed out of the outfield core there in Seattle, but could certainly be playing his way back in?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that he said to me, the very first answer to a question last week, is that he was just having fun. It was after his first game back at AAA. He said, I just came down and had fun. And that obviously is a big point of emphasis for him, is to not kind of lose sight of that in the big picture of everything. You still got to be able to go out and enjoy what you do. Demotion, being sent down to the minor leagues after starting the season in the majors, a lot of guys would take that and make it into kind of a thing that they mope with. And Taylor Trammell is the opposite of that. He used it as fuel to try to prove himself day to day at the ballpark. I think right now, what is so interesting about where Taylor is that he has never been tested at the AAA level before. And, we had a dude jump into my mentions after the first story that I wrote, calling him the ultimate quad A player. Taylor Trammell had literally never played a AAA game before last week. Taylor Trammell jumped straight from AA to the major league. So that's about as dumb a take as possible. But this is a guy who, he's still extremely young, and to be in a spot where you are leaping over the minor league's highest level after spending time at AA, a couple years ago, being a postseason hero when he was in the San Diego organization with Amarillo in the Texas League back in 2019. Did get time at the alternate site last year, and being in a spot where you are part of a group that's coming up and is so talented in just the outfield ranks alone. Trammell, obviously, with Jared Kelenic and with Julio Rodriguez also in that system. There are so many ways where I think you could feel overwhelmed and you could feel like it's time to press. Taylor Trammell hasn't done any of that. He's 23. Going down to AAA, he's had a multi-hit performance every single game so far. Last night, and we're recording this on Tuesday, last night he had a homer and 2 doubles, drove in 5. It just seems like he's very comfortably adjusting. And I asked him specifically 2 things. One, when was the last time you felt like you were hitting this well? And, seemingly going to the plate every time thinking that you can't be retired. And he said spring training, at the end of spring training this year, he felt like it was going this well. And then he said before that, it was probably in high school, where he said there was a time when he went to the plate and he thought, I really can't get out right now. And secondly, I asked him about handling off-speed pitches, because that was what he told me in our first conversation last week, was what the Mariners communicated to him. I said, how do you feel like it's going so far? And he just laughed and said, it's going well. I'm hitting them. So it feels like Taylor Trammell is adjusting to the things that the Mariners have requested of him. And the numbers, obviously, are just ridiculous right now. What is going to be interesting is they will play the series finale of that set with Salt Lake today. They're off tomorrow. And then on Friday, they open up a homestand against on Thursday, they open up a homestand against Round Rock. When you go home to Tacoma, it's a much less offensively friendly park. Pitchers see more of what you are adjusting to and what you're doing at the AAA level, how they are going to try to acclimate to what Taylor Trammell's successes have come from. That'll be interesting when that swing back period kind of comes as far as how pitchers adjust to him. But it has been very impressive to see him doing what he's doing. And, if I'm a Mariners fan and you got Jared Kelenic up there now, and if this is what Taylor Trammell is going to turn himself into, obviously he's not going to be a 620 hitter for the entirety of his time in the major leagues or in AAA, but with that, Julio Rodriguez is going to be taking part in the Olympic qualifier coming up later on this month and into June. It is a very exciting time, and Taylor Trammell being sent down to AAA has not done anything to diminish that. If anything, I think it's been more encouraging.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's funny to hear you say that, because he might be like the best futures game hitter I've seen. I think that's the thing that constantly, and I don't mean that in terms of like he's the best hitter to ever play in a futures game, but his performance on that level always told me something. Like it is, you come from the minor leagues, you come from smaller stadiums, you come from places without a second or third deck, and you get thrust on this stage. And he won MVP one year, almost won MVP the next year, attempted a stolen base of home in that one as well. This is a guy who's made for the big stage, and it was obviously disappointing to see him get off to that rough start, because I thought he did play so well in spring training. But once the book is out on you, and Tyler, you mentioned the off-speed stuff, like once major league pitchers knew he could struggle with that, then, that he needed to find that confidence again in AAA. And the fact that he's doing that so quickly is certainly encouraging, and will certainly be interesting as well, just to see what he's going to do, like you said, in that return to Tacoma and what happens when he's out of Salt Lake. But wouldn't it be great for Seattle if come August and September, they're really sitting around with Kyle Lewis and Jared Kelenic and Taylor Trammell.
Yeah, Kyle Lewis I didn't even mention.
Right. Julio Rodriguez knocking on the door. Mitch Haniger's back. If they have to sift through that going into the offseason, which we already expect to be a big one for them, if they have too many outfielders on their hands, then M's fans, you're in for a good ride.
Strike 3 this week. We are a couple of weeks now into the minor league season, and we talk a lot about impressive prospect starts. Sam, what about impressive team starts? I know early on we kind of all picked teams that we had our eye on to start the season in our season preview episode, but what are the teams that are standing out to you so far?
Yeah, so one was actually number 2 on my list of most loaded teams for prospects coming into the year. So it's certainly been great to see them get off to such a good start. Staying in the Seattle organization, it's the Everett Aqua Sox. They are currently 10-2, and it's, any team could potentially go 10-2. It's not very easy, but 12-game sample, not going to get too wrapped up in that. But the fact that they are such a loaded team, and the guys who we expected to take off are taking off. Julio Rodriguez, after a little bit of a slow start, has caught fire the last week. He's batting .353 now. He's got a .441 OBP, .784 slugging, homered in I think as many as 4 straight games at one point. He's got 5 homers now in 12 games. I thought it wasn't really an aggressive assignment for them to send him to high A. High A is where he ended 2019. I know he had some injury issues, didn't look all that great in the Dominican Winter League, but still this guy's too talented probably to start out 2021 where he ended 2019. He's certainly proving that now. I know even Scott Service has said like, yeah, we're keeping an eye on him for a potential debut maybe at some point this summer. So maybe he climbs 4 levels. Maybe he's not at high A for very long. The way he's punishing the ball right now, he certainly shouldn't be. But on the pitching side, Emerson Hancock has been kind of limited. He's only thrown 4 2/3 innings through 2 starts, but he's got 7 strikeouts in that time. George Kirby looking like his normal self, only walking 1 and 8 2/3 innings, but also striking out 12. Some of they're carrying multiple starting pitchers. They're starting to piggyback some guys. I think they have as many as 7 guys who have made starts so far. This is a team you're going to want to keep your eye on regardless, but the fact that they have been so successful on the field with this 10-2 start is huge. And I know Jordan Susterman of Cespedes barbecue fame continually says that this team is going to go 118-2. It's not going to happen, but what they've been doing so far, like, I can't really doubt them. So it'll be fascinating to see what they can do in the coming weeks as more high A West teams get to face them and they face other teams in these 6-game series. But Tyler, as you're following this stuff every night, has there been any team you feel like you're gravitating towards or writing about constantly? We talked about Tacoma with Trammell, but anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, the Durham Bulls we talked about at the start of the season being a squad that had so many interesting guys. And, from the standpoint of just straight prospect focus, obviously there's a lot there with Durham. Could have only been because of Wander Franco. But the fact that he's got other guys on that roster who are Vidal Brujan is probably the one who stands out most, who's got a 1088 OPS through his first 12 games this season. That team is still, just from night to night, you just feel like something is going to happen with that Durham team. And, it's so strange early on in the season because we get these rosters that are contained in the opening day press release and in the hype out of the start of the season and all of that. We never really know how long those players are all going to be in one spot. And so it's cool when prospect groups get to stay together for a little while because, you could find yourself in a circumstance where, oh, look at all these guys who are loaded up on this one roster. And then there's one injury at the major league level 5 days into the season, and all of a sudden the prospect group is completely different. So it's been cool to see how some of these groups have stuck together in the early going so far this year. And that Durham team, night to night, you look at that lineup up and down, and it's there's a lot of fun on that Durham squad. So that'll do it for 3 Strikes for this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. We'll be back to wrap it up with our MILB TV picks of the week coming up next. We interrupt this podcast to bring you another thrilling edition of Ghosts of the Miners. Now, here's your correspondent and host, Joshua Jackson.
Welcome back to Ghosts of the Miners, in which all of you out there in Radioland must identify the legitimate historical ball club hiding amidst a fraudulent pair. One is real, the others are faking defunct. In last week's segment, I asked you which of the following minor league baseball teams did, at one time, exist. A. The Beatrice Milk Skimmers. B. The Champlain Windjammers. C. The Lake Arson Scorchers. The answer, obviously, was A. The Beatrice Milk Skimmers. In 1912, the Beatrice Milk Skimmers began in the Mink League. That's Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas League to the acronomically uninclined. They later played in the Nebraska State League for a couple seasons, beginning, like the Woodrow Wilson administration, a few months into the action of 1913. Unlike Woodrow Wilson, the Milk Skimmers were the pride of Gage County, of which Beatrice is the county seat. They had an utterly good time at the ball yard, playing in the derriere until the cows came home, running right past your eyes into the dugout after beefing up their lead. 1915 was an especially frothy year, as the Milk Skimmers staked their claim as the best of the Nebraska State League with a 38-18 record after 56 games. They beat upon the Norfolk Drummers, stampeded the Kearney Buffaloes, tippled the York Prohibitionists, and hastened to the demise of the Hastings Reds. But then things curdled, and the Nebraska State League overstayed its sell-by date, shutting down on July 18. The Lincoln Sunday Star ran a headline in a font most forlorn: Beatrice Club is to be disbanded. But there was hope. The article noted that nearly every single Beatrice baseballer had received an offer to play elsewhere. That included Milk Skimmer skipper Jack Philman, who got his fill of the old ball game in gay old Paris. Paris, Texas, that is, where he caught on with the Paris Red Snappers and made out quite swimmingly. And that, dear listeners, is the cream on the Milk Skimmers. Drink up, and now let's move on. Which of the following was the real upper crust of the lower minors in the first decade of the 20th century? A. The Goldsboro Posh Steppers. B. The Calumet Aristocrats. C. The Madison Millionaires. Guess rich or die trying. Better yet, tune into next week's edition of Ghosts of the Miners for the answer. But for now, you'll have to excuse me. My producer Ben Hill is on his way to Niagara Falls, and his barrel is missing a key slap.
Wrapping up this week's episode of the show before the show, MILB.TV is your place to catch all of the best and brightest across minor league baseball. Sam, what are you watching this week?
Yeah, so this one is going to be a pitching matchup. Well, not necessarily a matchup, but just one starter that I want you all to see at some point while you have the opportunity, and that's Hunter Green with the Chattanooga Lookouts. Hunter Green, coming off a week in which he was named the Double-A South Player of the Week. He had 11 innings pitched, struck out 17, had a 1.64 ERA. Does what he does best, which is pump multiple 100-mile-an-hour fastballs past guys. I think he's been up to 103 at times, but the most promising thing is that he's also throwing an improved breaking ball with his slider, so that's been huge. It's really cool to watch somebody do this as well as he does. And again, just flash that plus velocity. It's getting to be the point where he's throwing, or he's becoming like must-watch MILB TV whenever he pitches. So I don't know exactly what he's lining up to pitch right now. He last pitched on the 16th. He's been going every 5 or 6 days. So that might line him up for about the 21st against Mississippi. But when Hunter Green takes the mound, you're going to want to watch. You're going to want to see what 102, 103 looks like on TV before he makes the majors. And especially keep an eye on that slider. And if he's getting swings and misses on that, it's going to be deadly stuff. He's got 8 strikeouts, 7 strikeouts, and 10 strikeouts in his last 3 outings. And if he's getting even more comfortable, we could be seeing 11 or 12 here in the next couple weeks, or even as early as this week. So be sure to keep an eye out for the pitching probables for Chattanooga. And whenever Green takes the mound, you're going to want to tune in. Tyler, what do you got your eye on?
Yeah, I am looking at the High A Central League and the top pick in the 2020 draft, and Spencer Torkelson, who is now the top prospect in the Detroit Tigers organization. And the reason why Spencer Torkelson sticks out to me is the overall numbers don't look great. Right now, he's got a 146 average and a 492 OPS, but he's also reaching at a 321 rate, which if you are batting 146 and your on-base percentage is almost 200 points higher than that, you're seeing the ball pretty well. I feel like at some point, Spencer Torkelson's going to start to break out. Remember, this is the first time in pro ball for this guy. Last year got time, obviously, at the alt site and played an abbreviated college season at Arizona State. But at some point, Spencer Torkelson is going to get this figured out. He and his West Michigan Whitecaps will be on the road taking on the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers this weekend. Garrett Mitchell, friend of the podcast, has been out of action for the last couple of weeks with a strained muscle behind his left knee. Could return at some point soon, the top Brewers prospect. Not sure exactly as to his timeline. I know there was a report that the Brewers don't consider it to be a huge issue or a huge setback for him. So it'd be really cool to see those two guys on the field at the same time if that transpires this weekend or later on this season. But that's what I'm tuned into this week on MILB TV. And it's just great to get a chance to talk about MILB TV games again, which I did not forget for our final segment of this week's episode.
Yeah, and it's been fun to watch the highlights come in too. Like one thing we should highlight is that MILB.com at the end of every night or beginning of every morning, whenever you want to check in on what happened the previous day, there are highlights at the bottom of the page that are usually top prospect focused. Any top 100 prospect homers, we usually have a clip of that. If a top 100 pitching prospect has a really strong performance, we'll have a clip of a strikeout. If there's a wacky play that happens, we'll have clips of that as well. It's just nice to get fresh highlights and see all this come into play. Tyler, you and I were talking before because you have a story up about Zach Dean on MILB.com right now. Zach Dean straight stole home, which part of that was the pickoff rules we were talking about at low A before. He got a great jump. We've got a great video of that. You can see him going. You can see the panic in the pitcher and the catcher as they see him barreling towards home. Just to have all this access to this stuff again, instead of getting reports from alternate sites and instructs and all that, is just a joy. So we have our picks on what you should watch, but anything you're going to pick is great.
I am in full agreement, and it's good to have those games back. So we will wrap up this week's episode of the show before the show. You can get in touch with us, podcast at MILB.com. You can find us on Twitter. He's at Sam Dykstra, MILB. I am at Tyler Maughan. And for Sam, I'm Tyler. We'll talk to you next week.